It's a summer morning in 2017 when a group of tourists spots a wild bear in Yosemite National Park. But they take a step closer and decide to ignore the ranger's warnings, convinced nothing will happen, and simply make a picture. But the ranger knows the danger and warns them multiple times as well. Minutes later, it's too late. Today we go over the chilling stories of arrogant people who were given advice, but chose to ignore anyway. Brett Callahan was one of them. He had been to Yosemite 4 times before the summer he decided a bear was friendly. He was a project manager from Scottsdale, Arizona, organized, methodical, and entirely confident in his ability to read a situation. He had seen bears on previous trips. They had walked away. He took that as data, and in Brett's mind, data was expertise. What Brett didn't know, and what rangers had documented extensively, is that Yosemite's black bears have been conditioned over decades of human contact to associate people with food. A bear that doesn't run isn't calm, it's calculating. Yosemite's black bear population has been studied more intensively than almost any other in North America, and the behavioral data is unambiguous. Bears that have lost their fear of humans don't simply tolerate proximity, they seek it, because proximity has historically meant reward. On the morning of his 4th day in Curry Village, Brett approached a 280-pound male near a food storage locker the bear had already been circling for 40 minutes. He had a granola bar in his hand. A ranger intervened within minutes, issued a formal warning, and explained clearly on record that feeding wildlife in Yosemite carries a federal fine of up to $5,000, and that habituated bears are eventually euthanized because of exactly this behavior. Brett nodded. He said he understood. 40 minutes later, a second ranger found him 20 feet closer to the same bear, phone raised, granola bar still visible in his jacket pocket. A second warning, a second acknowledgement. The third interaction required no ranger. The bear made contact first, a single swipe, non-predatory by the park's own classification. But the force of it put Brett against a parked vehicle hard enough to fracture 2 ribs and dislocate his shoulder. He was evacuated by emergency services. The bear was tagged, flagged as a human contact animal, and placed on a euthanasia watch list. Brett's certainty didn't just cost him, it cost the bear. Vanessa Ort ran a nature photography account with just under 40,000 followers, and she had built that following on one thing: proximity. The closer the shot, the higher the engagement. She knew this because her analytics told her so. But analytics don't transfer to ecosystems. Vanessa arrived at Yosemite Valley in late summer, the precise window when black bears enter hyperphagia, a physiological state in which they must consume up to 20,000 calories per day to build the fat reserves necessary for winter dormancy. Most people don't know that number. 20,000 calories every single day. A bear in hyperphagia is not aggressive by default, but it is singularly focused, easily startled, and operating on a behavioral register entirely different from the animal Vanessa had photographed in spring when food was abundant and urgency was low. She didn't know that. She hadn't looked it up. What she had done was scout a location near Brittleville Fall, where a sow with 2 cubs had been reported by other visitors on a wildlife tracking app she followed. She set up before dawn. Ring light, stabilizer, spare battery pack. The sow appeared at 6:12 in the morning. Vanessa moved closer. A ranger on patrol reached her position at 6:19 in the morning and issued a warning. A sow with cubs is the single most dangerous bear encounter classification in the park's own safety literature. Not because the sow is inherently violent, but because her threat threshold drops to near zero when her cubs are within range. Vanessa lowered her camera, waited for the ranger to move on, and then raised it again. She closed to within 30 feet. The sow charged at 6:31 in the morning. It was a bluff charge. The bear stopped, huffed, and retreated. But Vanessa, stumbling backward on uneven ground, fell and sustained a serious head laceration and a compound fracture of her left wrist. She was airlifted out of the valley. Her camera card was recovered intact. The final images show the sow mid-charge, ears flat, eyes locked directly into the lens. Vanessa had the shot. She just couldn't post it. The analytics couldn't help. Dustin and Amber Kruger were on their honeymoon. They had driven from Portland, booked 3 nights in Yosemite Valley, and agreed before the trip that they would get at least one photograph with a bear. Not near a bear, with a bear. Dustin had done research. He'd watched several YouTube videos about black bear behavior and concluded that the key was to move slowly and avoid direct eye contact. That advice applies to grizzly bears. Black bears respond to entirely different behavioral cues. With black bears, appearing submissive can actually escalate rather than de-escalate a tense encounter because the animal reads passivity as an absence of deterrent, not a gesture of respect. Dustin didn't know the difference. Nobody in the videos he watched mentioned it. On their second afternoon, a 400-pound male was spotted near the housekeeping camp area, a location rangers had already flagged that season as a chronic human-wildlife conflict zone with 11 documented incidents. Dustin approached from downwind. He was proud of this detail, mentioned it later in his hospital interview, as though it demonstrated preparation rather than a misapplication of grizzly bear tactics to an entirely different species. Amber held the GoPro. A ranger made contact with the couple at a distance and issued a verbal warning. Dustin waved. He kept walking. The bear turned at 15 feet. What followed was not a predatory attack. Bears rarely attack predatorily, but the contact was severe. Dustin sustained lacerations to his forearm and upper back requiring more than 60 stitches. Amber, retreating, twisted her ankle badly enough to require evacuation assistance. The GoPro captured everything. Rangers reviewed the footage during the incident report process. The ranger who issued the warning can be seen clearly in the frame, arm raised, voice audible, 11 seconds before Dustin waves and continues forward. 11 seconds between the warning and the choice. Rangers use that footage in training. Hector Villanueva didn't stumble into a bear encounter. He engineered one. Hector was a backcountry enthusiast from Albuquerque who had logged over 200 nights in wilderness camping across the American Southwest. He was experienced. But experience in the Sonoran Desert does not transfer to Yosemite's high country. These are categorically different ecosystems with categorically different wildlife, and the instincts that kept Hector safe in one place carried no weight in the other. Hector set up an illegal campsite in a zone closed to overnight use and began leaving food scraps intentionally to attract bears for close-range photography. He had done this before in areas with less ranger coverage. It had worked without consequence. What he didn't account for was the behavioral profile specific to Yosemite's bear population, animals that have been in sustained human contact for generations and no longer approach out of curiosity. They approach with an established expectation of reward, and when that reward is withheld, they have learned to escalate. By day 3, a 320-pound male was visiting Hector's site every night. By day 6, the bear had stopped foraging elsewhere entirely. On the 7th night, Hector ran out of food scraps. The bear did not accept that answer. It ransacked his camp with a methodical precision that bear researchers specifically describe as learned persistence, a behavior pattern documented in bears with extensive human food conditioning, where the animal has internalized that sustained pressure eventually produces results. Hector was struck twice while attempting to retrieve his pack. He spent 11 days in a Fresno hospital. The bear was located by rangers, identified by its ear tag, had been flagged twice before for human food conditioning incidents, and was euthanized. Hector's photographs were exceptional. They were also the direct cause of an animal's death. The park logged it in the annual euthanasia count. Shane Decker had fed bears in Yosemite before. Twice, by his own account, once near Yosemite Village and once near 2 Alumni Meadows, and both times he had walked away without injury. He interpreted that as expertise. This is one of the most well-documented cognitive traps in wilderness risk psychology. Survival without incident becomes indistinguishable in the mind of the survivor from evidence of safety. It isn't. It is luck, misread as skill. Shane returned the following summer with the same confidence and a bag of trail mix. He located a bear near the Mirror Lake trailhead, a young male, approximately 3 years old, recently separated from its mother and still establishing its foraging patterns in unfamiliar territory. What most people don't know about young male black bears in their first independent season, they are among the most behaviorally unpredictable animals in the park. They have not established territory. They are calorie deficient and anxious, and their threat thresholds are poorly calibrated, and they escalate faster and with less warning than older, settled animals who have learned their own range. Shane knew none of this. He tossed a handful of trail mix toward the bear and stepped closer. The bear fed. Shane stepped closer again. The second handful landed too close. The bear lunged, not a swipe, not a bluff, a full contact lunge, and Shane went down hard on the rocky trail. He sustained a severe bite to his left calf, a broken collarbone from the impact of the fall, and a concussion. He was found by another hiker 20 minutes later. When rangers interviewed him in the hospital, Shane's first statement was, "I've done this before and it was fine." The ranger's response, documented in the incident report, was 3 words. "This time wasn't." Shane left with permanent nerve damage. Gloria and Warren Tibbs were retired school teachers from Eugene, Oregon. They were, by every account, careful people. But careful people make assumptions too, and the assumption Gloria and Warren made was the one that gets people hurt more reliably than almost any other in bear country, that a calm bear is a safe bear. It is not. The bear they encountered near Yosemite Village had been conditioned over multiple seasons of human contact into what wildlife managers specifically call food-habituated boldness, a behavioral profile in which the animal no longer associates humans with any form of risk. It didn't flee. It didn't display aggression. It simply stood its ground and waited, because waiting had always been rewarded before. Gloria saw an animal that looked placid. She saw no bared teeth, no huffing, no bluff charge. She reached into her day pack and offered a piece of fruit. Warren photographed the moment. The bear took the fruit, then it followed them. For the next 40 minutes, the bear tracked Gloria and Warren along the Valley Loop Trail, maintaining roughly 30 feet of distance, close enough to be a constant presence, far enough not to trigger alarm in 2 people who had already decided it was harmless. A ranger intercepted them near the trailhead. He identified the bear immediately by its ear tag. It was the same animal involved in 4 prior human contact incidents that season alone. Gloria was sea-eyed. Warren was sea-eyed. The bear was removed from the valley corridor and relocated 12 miles east, a distance it covered in under 48 hours. Relocation doesn't work on food-conditioned bears. The park's own management literature states this explicitly. But tourists keep feeding them anyway, 1 piece of fruit at a time, and the cycle resets with every new visitor who decides the rules don't apply to their particular situation. Nate Olsen had built his entire content strategy around a single premise: do the thing no one else will do and film it. He had swum in restricted thermal pools. He had free soloed a section of trail closed for active rockfall risk. He had stepped into a roped-off geyser zone while other visitors watched from behind the barrier. Yosemite's bears were next on the list. Nate located an active feeding site near the Merced River corridor, an area rangers patrol intensively during peak season, specifically because of chronic bear activity, and set up a live stream without notifying the park. He announced to his audience what he was about to do. 42,000 people watched him walk toward a 350-pound male actively feeding on a cached food source. Here is the distinction most people miss. A bear feeding on a cache is not the same animal as a bear foraging through open terrain. A cached food source is a defended resource. The bear's behavioral state shifts entirely. It is no longer moving through territory, it is holding ground, and its tolerance for intrusion at that moment is near zero. Nate didn't know the distinction. His audience didn't warn him. The comment section, recovered after the incident, showed viewer after viewer typing the same phrase, "Do it." He did it. The bear made contact at 12 feet. The stream cut when Nate dropped his phone. He survived, but with injuries requiring reconstructive surgery on his right hand and a 3-day ICU stay. The phone was recovered by rangers. The stream had been archived by viewers before it could be removed. It had been viewed 2.3 million times by the time Nate was discharged. He never posted about it. Priya Sandu was not trying to feed a bear. She was simply trying to save weight. Priya was a capable backpacker, 4 years of solo wilderness trips, Leave No Trace certified, comfortable with navigation, weather, and backcountry campcraft. But she had decided to skip the bear canister requirement, judging it unnecessary based on experience in parks where she had never encountered a problem. Yosemite mandates bear canisters in the backcountry for a reason most visitors don't fully grasp. The park's bears have spent over 4 decades learning to associate the smell of human camps, including tents, sleeping bags, backpacks, and the carbon dioxide of sleeping breath, with food. It is not generalized bear behavior. It is a learned, location-specific behavior embedded in this population over generations of human contact. By night, 4 of Priya's trip, a bear had circled her camp on 2 consecutive evenings. She heard it both times. She noted it in her trail journal. The entry was recovered by rangers after the incident. She did not adjust her food storage. On the 5th night, the bear entered her tent, not aggressively, methodically. It had done this before in this drainage, with other campers who had made exactly the same calculation Priya made. She sustained lacerations, a broken finger, and severe bruising, but survived because a nearby campsite heard the commotion and drove the bear off with noise. The incident report listed the cause as non-compliant food storage in a mandatory canister zone. Priya's trail journal entry from night 4 read, "Bear again? Not worried? It hasn't come any closer." It was just waiting for the right night. Caleb Merritt had never been to Yosemite before. He had never camped in bear country before. He knew almost nothing about black bear behavior going in, and he said so openly, without embarrassment, to the ranger who conducted his bear safety orientation at the Valley Entrance Station. The ranger spent 12 minutes with him. Caleb took notes, not mental notes, written notes, on a small notepad he carried in his chest pocket specifically for the trip. He rented a certified bear canister at the visitor center. He stored every scented item, food, toothpaste, sunscreen, lip balm, even the wrapper from a used energy bar, inside it every night without exception. He maintained a minimum 200 feet distance from every bear he observed in the backcountry. He encountered 3 over 5 days. Each time, he stopped moving completely. He gave the animal space and time. He retreated slowly without turning his back, precisely as the ranger had demonstrated. On day 4, he watched from a measured distance as a ranger redirected another visitor who had begun closing the gap toward the same bear Caleb had just backed away from. He recognized the situation immediately. He didn't film the bear. He filmed the distance between himself and it, a short clip he later said he kept not for content, but as a personal reference for what a correct decision actually looked like in a moment when the wrong one would have been far easier to make. Caleb went home with photographs, a complete trail journal, and no injuries. He also went home with something none of the others in this video retained: the memory of a choice that cost him nothing because it had been made before he ever set foot in the park. Yosemite's bears have not changed. They have simply learned from us, visit by visit, one discarded granola bar at a time, until the behavior that gets people hurt became embedded in an entire population of wild animals who can no longer be untaught. The ranger can issue the warning. The regulation can mandate the canister. The sign can list the fine. But none of it functions if the person standing in front of the bear has already decided they know better